I handed her the manila folder the day she asked for space. She hadn't even finished her sentence, something about needing time to think, to recenter, before I walked to the hallway cabinet, and pulled it out. I'd put it together 2 nights ago, after the silence, after the photos, after the ache set in. I hadn't planned for this. But once I saw what I saw, I knew I couldn't unsee it. She looked at it like it was radioactive. I said, "This should help," and set it gently on the kitchen counter between us. Now, if you'd told me 5 years ago that I'd one day be standing in a sunlit kitchen, offering a folder of surveillance photos to the woman I thought I'd marry, I'd have laughed. I would have said, "I'm not that guy. I'm not paranoid. I'm not controlling. I'm the guy who trusts until you give me a reason not to." Her name's Rebecca. And the first time I saw her, she was arguing with a barista about an overcharged chai latte, not angrily, just passionately, like justice depended on it. I'd stepped in, offered to cover the difference, and she'd looked at me with those eyes that said she could fight her own battles, but appreciated the gesture. That turned into coffee, then dinner, then 5 years of birthdays and inside jokes, of Spotify playlists and Sunday pancakes. We were good. Or at least I thought we were. The cracks started subtly. A distance in her gaze. A change in her scent, not perfume, just something less familiar. New shampoo, maybe. New something. But I told myself to stop overanalyzing. We all change, right? Then one day she said she and her mom were taking a trip. Just the 2 of them. A little, girls' getaway, before things got busy. She framed it like a reset. Just beaches, books, and bonding. I even helped her pack. Carried her suitcase to the Uber and kissed her goodbye at the curb. She texted once when she landed. Sent a blurry photo of palm trees and cocktails. Said her mom was already complaining about the hotel pillows. I laughed, told her to enjoy herself. Then, nothing. Not for 2 days. No calls. No photos. Just one message, spotty Wi-Fi. All good. Love you. I tried not to let it bother me. But the silence echoed. That's when I got the message. An old friend from college, not close, but still in my contacts. He was in the same city, down for a work thing, and had spotted someone he swore looked like Rebecca. He didn't know if he should reach out. Said he figured maybe it was a coincidence, but something felt off. He sent a picture. Rebecca. On a rooftop bar. With a man I didn't know. Her hand on his arm. His face close to hers, laughing like they shared a private world. My stomach dropped. He sent more. Different outfits. Same guy. Poolside. Dinner. What looked like a shared hotel suite balcony. No mom in sight. I didn't call her. Didn't text. I sat on the couch that night, our couch, and stared at the photos. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just, disconnected. Like someone had pulled the plug on the life I thought I was living. When she came back, she was all smiles and travel stories. Said her mom got food poisoning on day 2, so they stayed close to the hotel. She talked fast. Too fast. Like she was reciting a script. I listened. I watched. I waited. And then this morning, she said we needed to talk. Said she wasn't sure if she was ready for all this. That she needed clarity. Space. I asked her if the trip helped. She nodded. I asked if her mom felt better. Another nod. Then I asked if she wanted to tell me anything else. Her eyes flinched. Just barely. No, she said. So I went and got the folder. Set it on the counter. Watched the color drain from her face. This should help, I said again. Quieter this time. And we stood there. 2 people who'd spent years building something, now staring at the rubble. She hadn't opened it yet. But she would. And when she did, the truth would finally walk into the room and sit down between us. Whether we wanted it there or not. She reached for the folder like it might bite her. I watched her fingers hesitate at the edge, like she was debating whether to open it or just set it on fire and pretend it never existed. But in the end, she did what Rebecca always did when confronted with something uncomfortable. She composed herself, spine straight, chin up, like a woman walking into court with a case she knows she's already lost but refuses to show it. She opened it. First photo on top, her and the man on a balcony, sunset casting gold across their faces, wine glasses in hand. His arm was resting just behind her on the chair, not touching her, not quite, but close enough that it said everything. She didn't react at first. Just stared at it. I stayed quiet. I'd said enough just by bringing the folder out. This part wasn't about me anymore. It was about what she'd say next, or if she'd even bother. She flipped to the next one. Dinner. Same guy. She was mid-laugh, eyes on him, not the camera. You don't look at your mother like that. Then one more, poolside. She was leaning against his shoulder. His hand resting lightly on her waist. A couple pretending not to be a couple, except they were too wrapped in their own little bubble to notice the world watching. Finally, she looked up. Her eyes were glassy, but not tearful. Not yet. She whispered, "Where did you get these?" I shrugged. Friend. He didn't even know he was doing recon. Just saw someone he recognized and decided to say something. I didn't sleep with him, she said quickly, like that erased everything. But the truth isn't just what you do, it's what you choose. And she'd chosen to lie. To hide. To be somewhere she knew I wouldn't be welcome. She didn't cheat with her body. She cheated with her silence. I never said you did, I replied. Her jaw tensed. Nothing happened, Eric. I shook my head, calmly. Plenty happened. You just didn't cross the line in a way that comes with a physical receipt. She folded the folder closed, pressing it like maybe she could force the contents back into secrecy. His name is Ian, she said, almost like she was confessing to a priest. He and I dated before you. It was messy. Intense. The kind of relationship that burns hot and then implodes. So naturally, you called him up during a trip you told me was just you and your mother. Her shoulders fell, finally. I didn't plan it. I swear I didn't. I saw on Instagram that he lived there now. I messaged him, just out of curiosity. I didn't think we'd actually meet up. But you did. She nodded. Yes. I waited, and when she didn't go on, I said, Rebecca, what were you hoping to find in him that you hadn't already found in me? She didn't answer right away. Her fingers toyed with the edge of the folder, now stained with whatever emotional residue guilt leaves behind. I don't know, she whispered. Closure. Nostalgia. I wanted to see if the part of me that still wondered, would finally stop wondering. I should have felt angry. I expected to be. But what I felt instead was worse. I felt replaceable. You wanted to know if you missed out on something, I said quietly. And the only way to do that was to lie to me. To take our trust and use it as a passport for cheating without consequence. Her mouth opened, but I raised a hand. And don't tell me it wasn't cheating. You didn't touch him. Fine. But the minute you booked a trip and packed a bag under false pretenses, it wasn't us anymore. It was you. It was a solo act. She folded her arms across her chest, holding herself like she was trying to keep the pieces from flying apart. I felt trapped, she admitted. Like the walls were closing in. Everything was moving so fast. Save the dates, venue deposits, dress fittings. It stopped feeling like a choice and started feeling like a commitment I couldn't back out of without disappointing everyone. That's marriage, I said. It's choosing the person even when the momentum scares you. It's staying when the exit looks easier. She nodded slowly. I know. Then the silence sat down between us again. The kind of silence where you realize something fundamental has shifted, and no matter how many apologies get layered on top, the crack beneath remains. I don't know if I can forgive this, I said finally. I'm not asking you to, she replied. I just didn't want to lie anymore. I exhaled. Stood up. Walked to the window. Outside, the world looked normal. The mailman passed. A dog barked down the street. Kids rode bikes like nothing had changed. But inside, everything had. I turned back to her. You didn't lose me because of Ian, I said. You lost me the moment you decided I didn't need the truth. Her breath hitched, that sharp little sound people make when they realize a door's closing. Not slammed. Not dramatic. Just, closing. Quiet. Final. I left the folder on the counter. I didn't need it anymore. I'd seen everything I needed to see. You don't walk away from 5 years together without looking back. I wish I could tell you I left that day and never glanced over my shoulder, that I was some picture of quiet dignity, stoic and strong. But the truth is, I stood outside the house for 10 minutes, staring at the window, half expecting her to run out after me. To say something. Anything. She didn't. So I drove. Not far. Just down the block. Parked near the elementary school where we once talked about maybe sending our kids someday. Sat there with the engine off, listening to nothing, letting the weight of everything sit heavy on my chest. You can't prepare for betrayal. Not really. It doesn't hit like a slap, it sinks, slow and wide, like water through drywall. At first it just feels damp. Annoying. And then one day, the ceiling caves in. I ended up at my brother's house. Thomas opened the door in gym shorts and a hoodie, a toddler clinging to his leg with applesauce on his chin. Jesus, he said when he saw my face. What happened? I didn't answer. Just stepped inside, dropped onto the couch, and finally let myself breathe. He didn't press. Just tossed me a beer and turned on a game we didn't watch. That's the thing about siblings, the good ones know when silence is heavier than words. Later that night, I told him everything. The photos. The lie about her mom. The man on the balcony. He whistled low. Man. I knew something was off with her when she started calling you, buddy, during game nights. I laughed. Actually laughed. First time in days. He leaned forward. So what now? I shrugged. I don't know. I ended it. I think. She didn't fight me. Didn't apologize, really. Just told me she felt trapped. Thomas nodded. Yeah, well, love doesn't put you in a cage. It builds you a house. Big difference. The next morning, I went home. Our home. Or, the place that used to be ours. She was gone. Not permanently, just out. The house was still exactly how she'd left it. A mug in the sink. A throw blanket half draped over the couch. Her perfume hung in the air like it hadn't heard the news yet. I walked into the bedroom. Her suitcase was half packed on the floor. Not like someone running, more like someone who didn't know what to take with her when her life came undone. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the wall above the headboard, the one where we'd hung pictures from trips, weddings, birthdays. I stared at the photo from Vermont, us in scarves, her laughing in mid-spin as leaves fell around her. That was the weekend I almost proposed. Had the ring in my coat pocket the whole time. Didn't do it. She'd made a comment that night about not being ready for forever. I tucked the box back into the lining of my suitcase and waited. For what, I don't know. Maybe I should have known then. She came home around noon. Didn't look surprised to see me sitting there. She walked in slow, like someone returning to the scene of a fire. "I didn't think you'd be here," she said softly. "I live here," I replied. "Still do. For now." We stood there in silence, the way two people do when there's nothing left to argue and too much left to mourn. "I'm moving in with my sister for a while," she said. "Just until things settle." I nodded. Then she did something I didn't expect. She walked over, sat beside me, and said, "Can I ask you something? And will you tell me the truth?" I looked at her. This woman I loved. This woman who broke us. "Of course," I said. "Do you think we could have made it, if I just told you the truth from the start?" I didn't answer right away. Because that was the question, wasn't it? Not about Ian. Not about lies. But about the real possibility of redemption, if only it had come before the fire started. "I think we could have faced anything," I said. "But not in the dark." She looked down. "I was afraid you'd leave. I was afraid you'd lie. Guess we both got what we feared." She swallowed hard. Stood up. "Take care of yourself, Eric." And with that, she picked up the suitcase, grabbed her keys, and walked out. No tears. No final scene. Just the sound of the door clicking shut. And the weight of everything she didn't say lingering in the air like smoke from a fire that had already burned the house down. You know what's strange? The world doesn't slow down just because yours stopped. The morning after she left for good, the trash still got picked up. The neighbor's dog still barked at the mailman. And my inbox still had 12 unread emails, none of them from her. I sat on the porch that day, coffee going cold in my hands, and watched the sun rise like it didn't care how wrecked I felt. And maybe that's the lesson: life doesn't pause for heartbreak. It just keeps on moving, even if you can't. That first week was quiet in the loudest way possible. I'd walk into rooms and feel like I was trespassing in my own house. Her mug still hung on the hook next to mine. Her sandals were still by the door. And every time I reached for the light switch in the bathroom, I heard her voice in my head reminding me that the dimmer switch was better in the morning. Stupid things. Ghosts. I didn't throw her stuff out. I didn't pack it up in rage or light it on fire like you see in movies. I just let it be. Like if I touched it too soon, it would shatter something in me that hadn't even cracked yet. Instead, I focused on the logistics. Called the florist. Cancelled the venue. Emailed friends who hadn't heard yet and gave them the version of the story that didn't make anyone the villain, just two people who didn't make it to the finish line. Some responded with kindness. A few didn't reply at all. But the worst was when people said, "At least you found out before the wedding." Yeah. Great. That's like telling someone who got hit by a bus, "Well, at least it wasn't a train." Around day 10, Thomas came over again. He didn't knock, just let himself in, holding a six-pack in one hand and a pizza box in the other. "You've got raccoon eyes," he said, flopping onto the couch. "Thanks," I replied. "It's called Devastated Chic. It's trending." He didn't laugh. Just looked at me. "Look," he said, "I know this feels like the end of something huge. But maybe it's not an ending. Maybe it's a redirection. Maybe it's the universe's way of clearing the road." I raised an eyebrow. "You go to therapy now or something?" He grinned. "Nah. But my wife does. I listen sometimes." We sat in silence for a bit, eating cold slices and watching reruns of a show we used to love back when everything felt simpler. Before weddings. Before betrayals. And then he asked me something I hadn't expected. "Do you still love her?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Because love doesn't just vanish. It doesn't pack its bags the way she did. It lingers. It clings to the edges of your life, haunting the quiet moments. I don't know, I said. I think I loved who she was. I think I loved who we were. But I don't think I can love someone who made me feel small. Thomas nodded. That's fair. Before he left, he dropped a small box on the counter. What's this? I asked. Thought you could use a reset, he said. Inside was a new French press. Matte black. Sleek. Yours cracked last time I was here, he added. And you kept saying you wanted a better one. It was such a small thing. But it hit harder than any apology she never gave. Because that's the difference between someone who chooses you, and someone who doesn't. One leaves you with questions. The other leaves you with peace. Healing doesn't come with a finish line. No one hands you a medal the day you finally breathe without it hurting. It just happens. In pieces. The first piece came when I took her sandals from the front door and moved them to the hall closet. I didn't throw them out. Just gave the ghost of her less space to linger. The second came quieter. I stopped checking my phone at night. Stopped waiting for the buzz of a message that said she made a mistake. That I was still the man she chose. Because even if she had sent it, I wouldn't have known what to do with it anymore. Some things, once cracked, don't glue back the same way. The fracture stays, even if it holds. That week, I started cleaning. Not just dishes, deep cleaning. Baseboards. Fridge shelves. Alphabetized the spice rack. Like I was trying to scrub her out of the walls. Then I found the shoebox. Back of the closet, behind her yoga mat. She kept our milestone stuff in it. Ticket stubs. Photos. Mirror notes. Top item, a photo from my cousin's wedding. Her head on my shoulder. Me, looking at her like she hung the moon. The kind of look you don't realize you're giving until it's caught in stillness. Underneath, a note I'd written on our 3rd anniversary. 4 lines in blue ink. I never believed in soulmates until you. But now I know better. Soulmates aren't perfect matches. They're just 2 people who keep choosing each other, every day. I read it 3 times. I meant it then. Every word. That's what made it hurt. She couldn't even choose me when the past came knocking. I didn't burn the box. Didn't throw it out. Just taped it shut and slid it under the bed. Not to save it, to make space. The next morning, I got a call. Unknown number. Straight to voicemail. It was Ian. His voice was smooth. Careful. Rehearsed. He said Rebecca told him things were complicated. That they weren't together anymore, not officially. I wouldn't have met up with her if I knew the truth, he said. I didn't call back. Because if he was telling the truth, then she hadn't just lied to me. She'd lied to both of us. 2 stories. 1 escape route. That's the thing no one tells you about closure. Sometimes, it doesn't come from the people who broke you. You build it yourself. Brick by lonely brick. Next morning, I opened a fresh notebook. Wrote 3 lines. You didn't deserve to be betrayed. You didn't deserve to be doubted. And you sure as hell didn't deserve to beg for honesty. Then I flipped the page. And started a new one. Because the person who hurt you, they don't get the final word. You do. 3 months later, I took the ring back to the jeweler. I stood outside for 20 minutes before walking in, holding the box like it still carried the weight of everything I never got to say. The guy behind the counter recognized me. Didn't work out. I nodded. She chose someone else. He didn't ask more. They bought it back. Not full price, never is, but enough. Enough to close the chapter. On the way home, I didn't cry. Just rolled down the windows and let the wind scrape something off of me. Waiting on my doorstep was a package. No return address. Handwritten label. I knew the writing. Inside, a letter from Rebecca. No drama. Just 3 pages, folded once. She'd moved out of her sister's place. Got her own apartment. Started therapy. Was finally asking the questions she'd been avoiding, about love, fear, why she ran when things got too real. Then came the part that stopped me cold. I wasn't pretending with you, Eric. I loved you. But I didn't know how to stand still inside that love. I thought real love had to chase and ache. But what you gave me, that calm. That was love. I just didn't recognize it. She ended it like this. I'm not asking for another chance. I just hope that wherever you go next, someone sees you the way I didn't. As enough, without needing to be tested. I folded the letter, held it for a moment, then slipped it into the shoebox under the bed. Not to preserve it, just to bury it. Because here's what I've learned. Some people aren't your forever. They're your before. The wildfire that clears the field. The heartbreak that makes room for better, not louder, not flashier. Just better. The way love should be. And me? I'm not angry anymore. Not bitter. Not waiting. I hike now. Alone sometimes. With friends. I volunteer on Saturdays, something Rebecca used to talk about, but never made time for. Last week, I met someone at a bookstore. Her name's Lauren. We both reached for East of Eden, laughed awkwardly, and talked in the aisle about Steinbeck and coffee preferences. She asked what I did. Logistics, I said. She smiled. That explains the alphabetized T-rack. Just like that, something warm flickered. No thunderclap. No swelling music. Just, real. We got coffee the next day. When I walked her to her car, she said, "You seem like someone who's lived through something." I smiled. Yeah. But I lived through it. She didn't ask what. And I didn't tell her. Not yet. But maybe someday. I will. I'll tell her about the folder. The lie that unraveled it all. And the peace that followed. Because when you've been burned down to nothing, you learn what doesn't burn. And that's where you begin again. Not in the ashes. But in the soil beneath them. Rooted. Ready. And finally, free.